This past week, Pastor Matt continuously teased me that he would laugh to hear my take on the first reading. I'm not sure he was serious, though. However, challenge accepted. So here you go. Let me read the first reading again in case you don't remember it. A capable wife, who can find it? She's far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good, no harm, all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from far away. She rises while it is still night and provides food for her household and tasks for her servant girls. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hand to the distaff, and her hands hold the spindle. She opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of her household when it snows, for all her household are clothed in crimson. She makes herself coverings. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the city gates, taking his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She supplies the merchant with sashes. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her happy. Her husband, too. He praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her a share in the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the city gates. Now, that's quite a text. What do we hear about the capable wife? She's precious and rare, and putting it into my words, she can do and does everything. From managing her household, stocking the pantry, raising her children, to making clothes from scratch. She also manages financial transactions in buying a field and selling her garments for profit. She then continues to work the field into a vineyard. She's empathetic and caring for her own as for others. She faces the future with a smile, and with strength is kind and God-fearing. Quite a woman. She can do it all. This text, written about 400 to 500 years before Jesus, is from a collection of texts that discuss questions of values, moral behavior, the meaning of human life, and right conduct. There is no equivalent text in the Bible, neither in the Old nor in the New Testament, about the capable husband. However, we do find snippets here and there. It is the task of the husband to love his wife, 1 Peter. He is in charge of the household, all final decisions, and his wife. He's sober-minded, respectable, self-controlled, hospitable, able to teach, and above reproach, 1 Timothy. This is all not a surprise, considering that the Bible was written, composed, and compiled by men. And I would treat these ancient texts as a purely cultural historical document if it wasn't for the shockingly up-to-date description of what women in a heterosexual relationship with children still do. 2,500 years later, in a world we describe as postmodern, this poem, lauding the capable wife, is still true, describing a gender inequality that many women experience. This inequality is nothing to celebrate, but to work on. What gets me, however, is that we read this text on a Sunday morning in church as the first reading. It makes me wonder how many women were involved in the committee that put the Revised Common Lectionary together. In case you wonder when that was, it wasn't 80 years ago, not 60, it was 30 years ago, 1994. It could have been worse, however. They could have chosen this reading for Mother's Day. A survey from 2021 from the European Institute for Gender Equality stated that housework is the most unequally shared of the three most common forms of unpaid care. The other two being childcare and long-term care for older people and people with disabilities and other chronic conditions. About 91% of women with children spend at least an hour per day on housework. 91, compared with 30% of men with children. The latest available data shows that employed women spend about 2.3 hours daily on housework. For employed men, this figure is 1.6 hours. Gender gaps in housework participation are the largest among couples with children, at 62%, demonstrating an enduring imbalance in unpaid care responsibilities within families. I have to admit that this text triggered me because it describes shockingly accurate the gender roles that I grew up with. Gender roles that I try to shed and that I don't want to pass on to my children. But these roles are sticky and hard to get rid of. Interestingly, our gospel reading can be read as gender stereotypical behavior too. Jesus walks around with all his disciples, who, as scholars now confirm, were a mixed group of people. And Jesus teaches to them and talks, but his inner circle, the 12 disciples, the 12 men, don't listen because they have an argument going on. Who is the greatest? And again, this is feeling sadly up to date. Opening the newspapers, we can read about a lot of conflicts that are led by men insisting on being the greatest. Men raging against the world, and often especially women and children, for not being seen and loved by them. Men seeing it as their last solution to go out and shoot down people for something that is amiss in their life. In the gospel, Jesus takes a little child in his arms and says, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me. Whoever listens to the weakest and most vulnerable listens to me. Whoever asks to hear the voice of those usually without voice about their experiences, their view, their needs, works for a better world. Whoever does not aim to be the greatest, but to serve and support, to strengthen and enable change for a better, more equitable future, does what we are called to do." Change is possible. That I'm standing here saying these words shows that change has happened and is still happening. It is a long and arduous way, yet we mustn't give up hope and courage. Amen.